Is Sean O'Malley versus Merab Dvalishvili going to look exactly the same, or do we have a very different fight on our hands? What's up, everybody? Welcome to One on One. As always, I am Laura Sanko, and as always, I am joined by the great brain of Dean Thomas, always taking his time to join us. How you doing, Dean?
I'm doing good. I'm the man of mystery. Joe
You are
Rogan
the
called me that once. Yeah, international
yeah.
man of
What's
mystery.
behind you? What is this backdrop?
Oh, that's Black Sheep. You never heard? You know the song. This or that you can get with this, or you can
Oh
get
yeah,
with
you can get with that. You can
yeah,
get with. Oh,
yeah.
that's
I
kind of neat.
They shaped my entire high school years, so I wanted to show them some love
You
tonight.
can't drop a nugget like that off the top of the show and expect me not to have an hour-long follow-up question. Now I'm
I'm
dying.
sorry.
Okay, that's going to have to be a whole separate video now,
That's
but
a whole
at least
separate
we got
video.
content to look forward to. I want to keep it to UFC 316, but before we start talking about the fights, I do have a little bit of housekeeping for our channel. So, a couple things right off the top. We have several fan submissions for this video, and I am so excited for it because I got to tell you, I love, love, love interacting with our fans. So stick around to the end to see these two videos. As always, if you're looking to have a comment, a question, anything for our previews for UFC 317, you can send them to oneononecombatsports@gmail.com. Or we're going to give you another option now. You can reply to the pinned comment underneath this video with your thoughts, comments, questions for UFC for our UFC 317 coverage. So we're going to start also including just some text messages, not text messages, but you know what I'm saying, like just text copy of you guys' thoughts and your little handles to get everybody involved. So that's a couple things. And then secondly, we are going to start playing around with doing our previews a lot earlier. We want to make friends with the algorithm over here. So we're going to try to get out a little sooner. So next time, look for the main event and co-main event preview to come to you about a week earlier than it has been. So keep an eye out for that. It's just going to be earlier in your news cycle, and hopefully that will help the channel grow and we can get more viewers. But we appreciate your viewership. As always, click like and subscribe if you haven't already. With all of that, sorry you've been sitting there looking pretty for a full couple minutes, me just prattling on, Dean. Let's talk about some fights.
Well, let's talk about some fights. Let's
Main
get it on.
event. Main event.
Yeah.
Atomweight Championship. Merab Dvalishvili, the champ, taking on Sean O'Malley for the second time. Big picture thoughts on this fight. What are you thinking? Is
Well,
this
it's a rematch, which automatically makes it interesting because adaptations.
yeah.
What are they doing in training? What are they doing in camp? I spoke to Merab today. He's a wild man, just absolutely wild. But for me, just who prepared better,
Yeah.
right? Who prepared better for this match?
I wish we had a inside look into the truth of like how each of them dissected that last fight. You know, how much do they really pour over the minutia of the film? Because this would be the perfect fight to do it, right? Because it just happened. So while I do expect each of them to make some adjustments, I don't know that either can make major ones, but we will talk about a lot of that in just a second. I know both of us rewatched the first fight and have some thoughts there. Let me get to the stats off the top. I almost always wait way too long to do this, so I'm trying to be better about that. And I won't go into too many of them because a lot of times I'm using the stats to paint a picture of what if, and we don't necessarily need that here. But I'll just remind us all of a few things. Obviously, Merab Dvalishvili, 12-2 in the UFC, one knockout, 11 decisions. Sean O'Malley, 10-2 with one no contest, six knockouts, and four decisions for Sean O'Malley. 5'6" versus 5'11", so pretty big height discrepancy. 68-inch reach for Merab, 72-inch for Sean, pretty decent size reach advantage for Sean. Both of them can switch stances, although Sean does it a lot more often. I feel like age is starting to matter more, so I'm going to mention that too. Merab, 34, Sean, 30 years old. All right, when it comes to the striking stats, obviously we know Sean O'Malley is the striker in this matchup. 61.5% accuracy is extremely high. I cannot emphasize that enough. The record is 67.8, and that's usually coming from a grappler who throws and lands one strike and then gets him on the ground and lands a bunch of rapid strikes. That's usually how you get a stat that crazy. So for a striker like Sean to have 61.5% accuracy is crazy. Merab's is 42.3%, which is right at the UFC average. Volume wise, Merab is at 4.36 significant strikes per minute, Sean at 6.71, which is extremely high. Although, if you watch that last fight, I feel like the stats for that fight, and in fact, I know that the stats for that fight in particular are not quite indicative of how he usually fights, which are the stats that I'm reading, because these are UFC career stats, of course. Takedown average for Merab Dvalishvili, 5.89 per fight. That's just stupid high. Of course, his takedown defense is great as well, but Sean's not going to be doing that. So I won't get into the really nitty gritty ones because we kind of know what we're getting into here, Dean. We've got a rematch of UFC 306 that went down at the Sphere. What were your biggest takeaways from that fight?
Um, it's hard to say, right? Because my first biggest takeaway was just Merab is really good.
Yeah,
Like he's a really good and reliable fighter.
yeah.
Some fighters are good, but not all that reliable. Merab is good and reliable. Like he's going to win all the ones he's supposed to win.
Mhm.
He's going to win fights that he's probably not supposed to win. So winning is his own skill set. And then when I look at O'Malley's side, and I don't want to say to take anything away from Merab, but I will say this. Either O'Malley may have been hurt in some way, affected in some way, or just not as good as I thought he was.
Well, you know about the hip, right?
Right.
I
So
mean,
and that's right. He said he had a bad hip, right?
he had a fully torn hip labrum,
So
which
it makes sense.
he already had surgery. Like they knew it, and he knew he was compromised, and he has said on several occasions that he was barely able to, whatever, for whatever reason, it affected him more in grappling. So it was really hard for him to train the grappling aspect, the takedown defense, the get up part of it. So yes, you're right.
Yeah, and I feel as though that has to change.
He got surgery.
That has to change.
Yeah.
That has to change because when I'm watching, because I remember watching Sean O'Malley a long time ago before he was Sean O'Malley. Him and Tim Welch were at a UFC, like in the back. You know how like when young fighters come with their coach. Like I think Tim Welch was there with Tanquinho when
Uh-huh.
Tanquinho was fighting. Sean O'Malley wasn't even in the UFC, and Sean O'Malley was just there training with Tim Welch in the back. And I'm like, yo, who is this kid? This dude's kind of dope. You know what I'm saying? He was hitting the pads and he was moving on the ground. I'm like, he's kind of dope. So I thought he was. And then when he gets put on his back against O'Malley, I was like, whoa, that's not the same guy I saw before. Like he just did not look good. So when I'm watching that fight, I'm like, either he's hurt or he's not as good as I thought he was. So it makes sense that he had a hip issue.
Mhm.
But in order for him to have success in this fight, he's either going to have a little more luck in his accuracy, or, and I say luck because like he was inches away from catching Merab with a few knees in that first fight, but or his grappling just has to be better. If his grappling doesn't get any better, like he's not going to have success. Another thing too is he's got to stay in position a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the moments that Marab was capitalizing on the most was when he would throw a big right hand.
Yeah,
And Marab's timing, I came away with a couple of thoughts. Not all of them are related. This might feel a little bit scattered, but the first thought for me when I went and I looked at the scorecard. I don't know why I did that, but I was like, I'll tell you why I thought. I thought it was like I remembered it being a near blowout on the scorecards. And what I was surprised to see was that it was not. It was not at all what I remembered. Now, I'm not saying it was like razor thin, but I remembered it being basically like 50-45. It was 49-46, 48-47, 48-47.
right.
And that you guys is crazy because that means and I looked at every judge gave Sean the fifth, every judge gave Marab the first, second, and fourth, and two judges gave Sean the third. So Sean won 2 rounds. And that means that Sean was potentially one big shot from winning another round because the way that these two fight, because Marab does not necessarily do a ton of life altering damage, Sean has, I mean, a very clear cut. Not that this is rocket science. We knew Sean's path to victory, but like I didn't realize how close, and I'm using air quotes here, how close that last fight was, Dean.
Well, you have to use those air
You
quotes,
have
but
to use the
you
air
have to
quotes
use
because
the
it
air
wasn't
quotes
close.
because it's a bit of a communication error that we have with the way we score fights
The
and what it
judging, yeah.
actually is. Yeah. And this is on the criteria. This is a mistake in the criteria, and I'm not sure that we can fix it. But I definitely won't be able to fix it before this show's over. But I get it. Like damage reigns supreme. Like damage, fight ending damage reigns supreme. But there still has to be like you can't lose 4 minutes and 50 seconds of a round and then hit a guy with one shot and then win the round.
I
I have
know.
a hard time believing that.
But you and I
I
have
just
taken the classes, and that is what they judge.
yeah, and that's what I'm saying. And I think because I find that to be I think that there's more context to this. I think it has to be because it's so much harder to
Hold
take a guy
someone.
down, pass his guard, and do all that stuff. But if I close my eyes and throw a kick and hit you in the face and it just hits you and you stumble backwards, you can win the round that way. And I find that to be bad. I don't it's that's a bad way to look at fights, but that's the way it is. And because that's the way it is, I accept it for now.
Hmm.
But I'm not going to accept it forever. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yes.
I'm going to fight that we can get that changed and we have to add more context in the way damage is being scored.
Can I add some context right now that we should add with it? This is a slight rabbit hole. I'm so sorry, guys, watching this video, but I went down this rabbit hole when I was studying for the Blanchfield Barber card. And it was either Jeff Filio or Nascimento had a fight where they were credited, I think it was Filio, where he was credited with in our official stats. So for people who don't know, the stats that you see during the broadcast are obviously being calculated, but when they go into UFCstats.com, they become official stats. The ones on the broadcast almost quite often, almost always will change once they become official because they're reviewed and whatever. So once they go on UFCstats.com. So I went to the stats for one of his last fights and he was only credited with 3 submissions. And in my mind, I'm like, or 3 submission attempts, excuse me. I was like, man, I think I watched that fight. Wasn't he just like throwing up submissions left, right, and center? I rewatched it, and sure enough, I counted 7, and he was given two.
Right.
No, it wasn't 3. He was
Even
given
too.
2, and that to me, and I've seen it happen before, and that's another thing that we need to work on with the criteria or the judge's knowledge is what is a close submission? Because to me, a close submission is one that forces the other guy, to abandon whatever else he is doing and defend. It doesn't have
Right.
to be like,
100%.
oh my God, the fight's gonna end, the fight's gonna end, the fight's gonna end, and we're all like holding our breath, holding our breath. I just feel like a lot of very real submission attempts are
Yeah.
not being credited by the judges, and therefore, because that is a form of damage in grappling, and that form of damage is not really being credited.
I don't think, and I'm, this is not a knock on the judges, even though it
They
kind of
do
is.
their best. I love the
Yeah, they
judges.
do their best, and they're not there trying to ruin people's career. I don't.
No,
I
no,
want to make that very clear. I love those guys. They're all buddies of mine. But at the same time, I'm not sure they're in a position to really judge a lot of grappling. You know what I'm saying? They're not. I don't know if they're.
a couple of them are, and a couple, and
Yeah,
many are
for
not.
the most part. For the most part, I'm not sure that they're able to judge grappling now. In order to judge grappling, would you be comfortable with them judging the FPI?
No,
Right? Like that's my
exactly,
point. That's my
exactly.
point. Would you be comfortable with them judging
Sport jujitsu.
a sport jujitsu tournament? So like if you can't do that, how are you so aware? How can you be sure that certain submissions are close and not close?
Yeah,
Because if
yeah,
you can't judge that, you can't do that.
exactly.
It's a hard job.
It is very hard, and I mean, it's hard enough where I struggle with it in commentary. I don't call out everything I think I'm starting to see because I don't want to say it and then be wrong because the fans are wildly mean. Um, it's tough. It's really tough. I can only imagine it would be even more difficult to try to sit there and in real time determine how deep or how close a certain submission was, especially if it's a weird one like, you know, a ham sandwich or something, like all these crazy, Eddie Bravo submissions that
Yeah,
don't even look like anything, but if you felt it, you're like, yeah, no, that's a real thing. But anyway, I digress. We digress. I digressed us. Back to the fight. Uh, where were we?
No, so I mean, but this all makes sense. This was all relevant to the fight because
Yeah.
of the way it was scored and how on
Oh yeah,
paper
yeah.
it looked so close on paper. And you can argue that it was close because of
Because of the criteria.
the way we interpret damage, and he did hurt Merab in the fifth, and he had some moments in the third, but I'm not sure he won the third. He had some moments, but based on the
I
way
know.
we
I
interpret
watched it.
fight,
I
yeah.
watched it as well, and that was okay. So I looked at the stats first, and I texted you something about how I didn't remember Sean stopping all five of Marab's takedown attempts in the third, which is another thing because he kind of does get taken down. It's just not the way that our stats count a takedown because he didn't end up fully down, but he was against the fence.
Up against the fence and he got caught in the choke, right?
He got caught in it, and he was in a
Yeah,
headlock series kind of
yeah.
situation. So anyway, again, we're very much in the weeds now, but he did land some bigger shots at the end of the round, but that round in particular is a perfect microcosm of how this fight could play out because people need to be prepared for a fight where Marab gets a lot of control time and Sean gets maybe a couple more big shots. And maybe most of it still kind of looks the same, but Sean ends up winning.
Well, that's my point of how Sean can win this fight. Now, if you add up Sean's big moments throughout the duration of the fight, let's say just I'm just going to throw a number out there. Let's say he had five big moments throughout that fight
That sounds about right.
in the first fight. Let's say he had five big moments. If Sean goes back and watches this tape and go and analyzes how he was able to create those five big moments and say, dude, all we need is another five.
Mm-hmm.
He wins the fight.
Mm-hmm.
He can, regardless of what Marab is going to do to him, if Sean can have another five big moments like that, he wins the fight. So if I'm Sean, I'm going, all right, what do we do that really worked and had success? Let's just do a little bit more of that. It don't have to be perfect, but just a little bit more of that. Have a couple of bigger moments. And you never know. You might even catch him with one of them knees coming in that can really do significant damage.
And the I feel like the kicking game of Sean was not entirely, but largely absent
It was
compared
absent.
to
Yeah.
what he normally does. And when he did go to it in the fifth round, that front kick to the body, you know, really started to have an effect on Marab. And there just wasn't enough time left for Sean to capitalize on that. But with a healthy hip, if he's able to incorporate his kicking game more like he typically does, this fight could look different. And I'm saying all this, making it sound like I want Sean O'Malley to win. It's not that at all. I think Merab is absolutely incredible. And the whole reason I'm spending so much time thinking about ways Sean could win the fight, because of the reality, it wasn't close. It was not close.
It wasn't close to me. It wasn't close to me. And I almost feel like I'm not sure how this one can be much different other than Sean having a few more bigger moments.
Yeah. One of the things that stuck out to me when I watched the countdown show was John Wood having a conversation with Merab Dvalishvili about being finding more damage, like we were talking about, finding damage in the grappling moments. Like it can't just be about control. And I know that's something that is near and dear to your heart. So if you were alongside John Wood giving him that piece of advice specifically, what does he need to do to be more damaging when he has Sean against the fence? Because to me, Marab does such a good job of like the up, down, up, down, up, down. He doesn't necessarily get on top of guys and control them the way that like Islam does, for instance, and then work your way into a submission threat. That's not really Marab's game. Does he need to move to that more of that type of game?
No, so first off, uh when you body type has a lot to do with the way you can do damage. The structure of your body has a lot to do with it. Islam is built differently than Marab, so it's easier for him to do damage inside of a full guard. So the first thing Marab has to do is he's got to hand fight better on top. So it's not about just getting in somebody's guard and punching them. You got to hand fight first. and he doesn't do a good job of hand fight. Most people don't. Actually, no one does. I teach this every school. To go, really? Oh my goodness, I never been learned this. Of course, because who's going to teach it to you?
Gamrot, that's who comes to mind for me, and someone who
Yeah,
last weekend.
yeah. You got to hand fight better on top.
Hmm.
Now, because Marab is shorter, his body type, he can't. He's not going to do a lot of damage from full guard, so
Yeah.
he's going to have to do it from half guard, where he can bypass one of the legs and get more chest to chest pressure and head over head pressure. So if I'm him, I'm focusing on hand fighting better and then get passing to half guard where he can then do damage and then just rotate. You can float, go from guard to half guard. You don't have to go to mount and all these other. Just go guard half guard. But but Marab, he might be a little hard headed. Like I don't know if I could
Yeah.
train a guy like Marab. Like John Wood is better for him than I am.
Do you feel like being a threat on the ground in terms of damage, ground and pound submissions, is that a skill set or is that a choice?
Your choices are always determined by your skill set. If you don't have the skill, it's not a choice.
Hmm.
But it also is your choice to learn it. So that's where it really kind of becomes a catch 22. You can choose to learn it,
Hmm.
and then it's a choice in terms of an operational choice when it's live. But if you don't choose to learn it, then it's definitely not going to be a choice when it comes to matter.
Do you think that if for instance Morab has decided to learn whatever he needs to learn, maybe what you just described, floating from half to side, and having maybe one or two submissions that he feels really, really confident in. Is that something that you think he would have enough time to do between then and now?
He could have, yeah, absolutely. Marab,
'Cause
he
it's not
trains
like he
like an
doesn't have a
animal.
grappling game. I mean, it's not like
No,
he doesn't know how to use submissions.
he trains like an animal.
Yeah.
And the problem with most guys too is that they only train like when they train jujitsu, they train jujitsu.
Hmm.
They might put gloves on and do jujitsu, but again, like to train the nuances of being good at ground and pound, it takes education, it takes time, and it takes practice. You just don't go, all right, I did a bunch of jujitsu, now I'm gonna go fight and try to add punches to it. Your connections to the technique are going to be off.
Hmm.
Because you're going to be think like we talked about with Zach Reese, like you don't know whether you're wrestling or doing jujitsu. You also don't know whether you're doing jujitsu or punching
Hmm.
unless you train it specifically with those connections. So I think Marab would benefit from that. I'm just not sure that he has the patience to learn it.
Hmm.
And with that being said, he's still the best bantamweight in the world.
And it's difficult to imagine someone who can get the better of him. Okay, so back to my original question. The other major takeaway I had was how good Marab's fight IQ has gotten.
Oh,
He used to make some really silly decisions in fights. And between the fight with Sean and the fight with Umar, I have come away incredibly impressed with his newfound fight IQ.
you know why I think his fight IQ is so high? And I mean this with all due respect. Like I said, Merab is the best bantamweight in the world right now, and has the best current winning streak in the UFC next to John Jones. There's not another person with a better winning streak. No one can tell me otherwise. But the reason why his fight IQ is so high is because he's always training with guys that are better than him in the gym, and he has to use it to keep up with them
Mm.
because he doesn't necessarily have the technique to do it. Like, cause I've watched him train with Aljo. I've watched him train with guys like Patchy Mix and these guys. And the reality is, like, skill wise, they're better than him.
Mhm.
So he has to find ways to compete with them. And he can't do it with just like the X's and O's of technique. It's all psychological ways of being able to
And
outwork them.
effort, yes.
Yeah, it's effort
Outwork
for
is
sure.
effort. This man's ability to find effort within himself in the form of volume and presence and like his most people in the fight, their effort looks like this. Like 99% of people. And Marab's is this. Sometimes it's this. Like you know, it's something I'm honestly I'm kind of coming across to the camp of people that think like I don't not everyone is capable of achieving Morab's fitness level. Like I really do think it's largely genetic because I know some people that probably work just as hard and not everybody's going to get the same result. And I'm not taking anything away from him because I know that he works harder than about anybody, but like I also think that he has a God-given gift.
Well, it's Lord, it's not that. Me and Dennis Bazooka talk. Well, you know Dennis
You
Bazooka. He's
don't think
Merab.
you don't think it's partly genetic?
I don't think it's. I think there's a case to be said that it's partly genetic, but in Merab's case, I don't think it's as physical as we claim it to be.
Really?
It's not as physical as we claim it to be.
Mental?
The way it's mental. You can't determine someone else's fitness level based on your standard. And
Mm-hmm.
we tend to do that. Like just because he can do 5 rounds like nothing, we don't know how hard he's actually working. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's 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 letting go of things and relaxing in places that we don't understand.
Yeah. And I guess
It's
that happens because you're comfortable, because you're
because his
confident,
level of comfort, his
because he
level of
gets work.
comfort.
Yeah.
Like if he's in on the shot, if he, or let's say you and him both take a double leg shot
Mm-hmm.
and you're going, "Urgh," and you're squeezing every muscle and you're trying,
Yeah.
and you don't get it, and you're trying to do this for 3 minutes and he's not working as hard as you are.
Uh-huh.
It may look like it because he's going, but his level of comfort, he's not squeezing every muscle in his
So
body
you
to get
think
it
he's
done.
found a way to be the most efficient fighter in the UFC?
Yes, 100%. Me and Dennis Bazooka talk about it all the time. And Dennis is his guy. They spend a lot of time. And in fact, Dennis got suspended by fighting a guy in the crowd for
Yes.
Marab.
Yes, that's right. I remember
and
that. Yes.
it's not a knock on Marab. It's just I think it's a bit misunderstood. And I'm not saying he's in bad shape. I'm just because if he's in bad shape, he can't like he's still in great shape.
You think what makes him otherworldly, though,
Right.
is up here.
Is his ability up here to understand what his capabilities are.
Uh-huh. That's fascinating. That's really, really fascinating. Um, I was really impressed in the last couple of fights with his range management.
Oh
So
yeah.
much better than it used to be. And he didn't allow himself to get drawn in by the moment. You know, he does have little lapses of judgment in fights where,
He
you know,
can't he can't help himself.
he'll talk to Tim. When
He did
he
that
started
early.
kissing Sean's back, oh my God, his little.
He can't help himself. But man, like you said, his because he's so comfortable, because he spars so much and trains so much, he just knows himself so well
Yeah,
that he's always there and always in your face.
yeah. All right, before we move to our fan submissions, give me, a little corner advice for both of these guys. What are some of the keys for Sean and keys for Marab?
All right, so Sean, his some of his bigger mistakes that he made is he was reaching on those body shots, some straight body shots.
Hmm.
Abandon those and trade those in for body kicks, straight kicks up the middle. And he's got to do a better job of just timing Marab and don't chase him. Just time him. Time him coming in, throw body kicks, still walk him down a little bit, like calculated pressure, but keep it sharp. I think he allowed Marab to get him a little wild and looping punches and reaching a little bit.
Do you think Sean was maybe put on the back foot more than he was expecting to be? Because I know he operates like a counter striker, but typically he's the guy with the advantage in that way and is comfortable doing that, and he's not
Yeah.
doing it because he's forced to do it. And this was a fight where it's like, oh, Sean's a counter right now because he's forced to be a counter striker right now.
Yeah. Right. Normally he wants to be, but now he was forced
Yes,
to be. Yeah.
that's the distinction.
Yeah. Uh,
Do you think
I
he's
don't
gonna
know.
go forward a bit?
I think he should.
Yeah.
I think he should. I think he'd be better served of going forward. He did a good job of making Murat like one thing that Sean does really well is makes the opponent think they're closer than they are.
Hmm.
Like he did that with Aljamain. He made Aljamain think he was closer than he was. And then when Sean was actually defending the takedowns of Merab was shooting from too far because he thought he was close enough. He's not.
Hmm.
So I think Sean needs to lean into that. And for Merab, I think Merab needs to get to the hips faster. So when he did get execute the takedowns, clean takedowns, he was on the hips. When he missed them, he was on a leg.
Yes, he was low. They were like low
Right.
singles, and Sean was
So
able to
he's got to. So he
Heisman
can't.
out of them.
Right. So he's got to use that to climb to the body or the hips. So take the low shots to get a bite and use that to climb. Don't try to finish the low shots. Just use that to climb closer to the hips. Finish the shots on the hips.
Do you feel like Morab needs to add the things that we talked about, the more damaging ground and pound, the submission attempts, or should he is he still going to win as long as he just gets those precious takedowns?
No, I think he would be better served doing some better ground and pound. I don't. I would avoid the submissions.
Hmm.
I don't think that's in his arsenal. I think that's going to kind of be a waste of time for him. I think he's better served of trying to pin Sean flat and catch him with a couple good elbows that'll make Sean think twice about his life.
Ooh,
Oof,
ooh.
I can't wait.
Now you got me all excited now. I am excited for this one, and I love chopping it up with you, getting into some of the finer details of things when we have the time and the ability to do it, which is why I love rematches. But let's take a look at a couple of fan submissions that we have. Let me remember how to do this real quick. All right, we got John McClain here. Let's hear what John has to say.
What's up, Laura and Dean? So this is my question for UFC 316, O'Malley versus Merab. So if O'Malley wins, do you do the trilogy with Merab? Because after that, they're 1-1. Or do you do O'Malley versus Sandhagen? So that's question one. Question two is for Dean. What is the most embarrassing thing that's happened to you in a street fight? Have you ever shit your pants, ran home crying, whatever? Let me know. Later, guys.
Oh, yes. Yes.
I
First of
got
all,
one.
isn't John McClane the name of the guy from Die Hard? Am I wrong?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, ain't that Die Hard?
The main character from Die Hard is a fan of One on One. Who knew? So, here I'll answer the first one. Then I can't wait to get to the second one. To me, I love the Sean Corey Sandhagen fight. This is, of course, if Sean wins, big if. I would love to see Sean O'Malley versus Corey Sandhagen. You can save the Merab trilogy for something to pull out of your back pocket, but who wouldn't want to see those two tacticians on the feet go at it? They're both so creative, so dynamic. That would be, for me, the choice to make. Okay, Dean.
No, I agree with you on that too. I think
Okay.
that's the choice to make, and I think that's the one the UFC would probably make too. As far as good as Merab is, and as much as we love him as champion, I don't think the UFC thought he was all that popular. Though I don't think they think he's all that popular. So I don't think they'll do a trilogy. Anyway, to get to my answer, so I was once, and this is kind of a not necessarily a street fight because I never really got into too many of them as a teenager or adult. But I was working in a club as a bouncer in a strip club, and
Oh, yes, let me
yes,
know.
yes. I used to work as
Let
a
me get
bouncer
that
in a strip
drink.
club. Yeah.
Oh.
And some joints went down, right? It was going down. And I'm small too, because I was still competing at the time. So I'm 160 pounds. But everybody always leaned on me. Dean, they're about to fight. You got to
Mm.
go over there. And I'm like, oh my God, I always got to be the one to go over there. So I had to go over there and stop this dude, man. So I'm like 20 feet away from the door. And apparently this dude was like a football player. I think he
Oh
played,
no.
yeah, I think he played for like the Lions, Detroit Lions,
Oh,
or something like that. Yeah.
professional.
So I roll up on him. I'm like, yo, dog, you got to calm down, man. I'm gonna take you out. And my man put his fist in my chest and the shoes I was wearing, because I wasn't wearing like some good kicks. I wasn't wearing, and I couldn't go barefoot, like,
Yeah.
my jujitsu days. And my man, he put his hands on my chest and ran me all the way to the door, like like one of them drills, like
Like
one
a
of them
dummy,
linebacker
like a
drills.
drill dummy. Oh, Dean.
And I couldn't keep up with my shoes. My legs didn't move. My feet were just sliding on the floor all the way to the door. I was like, shh.
Yeah.
Dude.
Ugh.
I was like, well, at least I got him out the door.
Exactly. This is
Yeah,
where I wanted you to be
yeah,
anyway.
that's where I wanted you to be anyway. But he did all the work. But I was kind of embarrassed because I'm like, yo, man, I'm supposed to be the man,
That's
and this
hilarious.
dude just pushed me all the way like 20 feet to the door, man. I couldn't even stop myself.
I gotta know the name of the club because these clubs always have good names.
Oh, it was at the time Silhouettes.
Silhouettes.
Yeah, they changed they changed the name of the club to I think it's called the Paper Moon now, but
Oh, Silhouettes is way better.
Silhouettes is better,
That
yeah.
makes way more sense.
But
That is,
you should have seen the girls in there.
was it? Oh, this conversation is gonna end up being way too long. But okay, tell me about the girls.
I'm just saying the girls in there, just bullet wounds.
Oh, I was gonna ask. Are we going like spearmint rhino or
No,
no?
I'm talking no more. No, 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 not even, not even. I mean, it was truck stop material.
Knee braces.
Yeah, lot lizards at the truck stop.
That's what they should call it. Oh, that is absolutely fantastic. John, you really made the show. All right, we've got one more. Hold on a second. All right, and we've got Derek. Let's hear what Derek has to say.
UFC 316 main event. Logic tells me to take Merab in this, but I've been kind of having something I've been thinking about. Um, the UFC Noche when he lost the first time, he didn't do a pre walkout or anything. He kind of looked starstruck when he came out. I know like in basketball they say like the rim and the bubble, it was different on the shots and where everything looks. He said he was blinded there, and I guess I don't know, but I know the UFC gloves are different too. Now they got the back to the old gloves. So what's the chances of O'Malley finding the chin? I think Merab's shown he's a little chinny and he leaves his head up. But I mean, it's tough not to take Merab, but I'm kind of a O'Malley homer, so I think I'm gonna take him.
All right, Derek, going into the nitty gritty there. I love it when people think about the rabbit hole X factors. Like, is
I
it
love it.
gloves? Is
I
it
love
the...
the overthinking.
I do. I love it too. I love it too. What do you think?
No, no, he's making a lot of valid points in terms of the things that were different for Sean in the sphere, and we can always say, yeah, but they were different for Marab too. Yeah, but difference affects people differently.
Mm.
So if it affected Sean differently, it did. But here's the thing with that: um, Sean has made some changes in his life as well now, which are different. So I'm not sure how that's going to affect. It might not actually be a good thing.
I meant to bring that up earlier, actually. I'm kind of glad
Yeah.
you did this. I wish it was part of the previous part of the video, but let's get into it now. He's not smoking weed. He's not uh he's not on social media at all. In fact, I think he's deleted all of his, well, I guess he's not because he's been posting, but like barely.
Hmm.
And he's not jaying his rod, as they say. He's kind of done away with all of the pleasures in life and gone to this very like austere, maybe not overly austere, but kind of taken the BS away, as he would put it. I feel like that would bring someone to a very centered place, but you're like, no.
No, I mean, sometimes it makes people so uncomfortable that they're just out of their element. I don't know how I feel about it. I mean,
I don't get that sense from him. I'll tell a story actually.
yeah,
I saw him in person for maybe 30, 45 minutes. We chatted because when was this? It's been the last Vegas pay-per-view, whenever that would have been. I lose track. He's there's a documentary that's going to be done on him, and they wanted me to be like one of the talking heads, that kind of interstitial between things, talking about his rise from Contender Series all the way up. So like I came up to the suite that they had rented and cameras all set up, and I did my pieces, and then he had been doing some other stuff, and he came up and we chatted for probably 30, 45 minutes, and I'm hand on the Bible, Dean. It was like talking to not a different person, but like yeah, like a different person. He was so much more present even with me then, like he talked about in the countdown about how he like became too attached to the Sugar show, the
mhm.
character of Sugar. And he's like, I just had to put it down. I got way too attached to that persona that I created, and I felt like my higher self was calling me to spend more time with his family and with my family. And that's all he wanted to talk about was stories about his daughter and the farm, and we were swapping farm stories and, you know, cows and like just I asked him, I was like, well, what do you, you know, what do you do? Because I know smoking was kind of like it's part of your thing, right? He's like, we play a lot of cards. You know, Tim lives just down, like they almost live on a compound now together. So his daughter will run over to Uncle Tim's house and like they'll go play. Like it is just a much more community oriented and centered and present way that he is living now.
I hope that it works because I would say that it's one for the good guys. If this works, then I'd say, hey, man, listen, it's one for the good guys where you can take out these vices and still be good. But more often than not, it doesn't. I don't want to say more often than not, but I'm just saying it's not a guarantee. Like
Yeah, it is nothing
imagine you told
guaranteed.
Kevin Holland he can't talk in fights no more. Like he tried that and it didn't work. You know what I'm saying? So it's like just some people are just better off
Yeah,
the way they are. So if Sean O'Malley, if this works for him, it's a victory for the good guys.
yeah.
But I just don't know if it's going to work for him.
Yeah, we shall see. And even if, listen, even if he loses the fight, that doesn't mean it's not working for him
Right. It doesn't mean it's not working. It just
as a
means that
person.
Merab's a better fighter. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Well, this has been a fun one. I really, really, really appreciate, we really appreciate, I should say, I'm speaking for Dean now, the fan submissions. We love seeing your guys' faces and learning your names and getting to interact with everybody. So again, if you have videos, send them into oneononecombatsports@gmail.com. If you prefer to just type out a question or a comment or whatever for us, do it. There's a pinned comment right below this video, and just reply to that pinned comment, and we will start compiling them for our next series of videos, which, as I said before, will be about a week earlier than usual. So keep that in mind. Yeah, hit like and subscribe. Dean, thank you for your time.
Always a
Wow,
pleasure. Yeah.
appreciate you very much. Guys, that's it. There's so many more other videos on this channel to enjoy. We appreciate your time, and we will see you later.